Shane Stalcup's original Trico Comparadun is an amazing Trico pattern. Today I'm going to show you a simpler way to tie the fly, and I can attest to the effectiveness of my version of the pattern. You're going to want to start with a TMC 2488 in size 22. I'll also tie these size 20, 24, and 26. For thread, you can use different things. MFC Black 8/0 is a good place to start. I'll also use Vivis thread as well. Tricos have 3 tails, so you're going to want to separate 3 from the clump before you tie them in. Now when I tie these, I'll tie several at a time, so try to separate sets of 3 microfibbets and it'll make it easier to tie multiple flies. Get your thread wrap back to the hook point, then take your clump of 3 microfibbets and tie them onto the top of the hook shank. Use a pinch wrap to lock them down, and then tie backwards until they're secure. Now the trickiest part about this is to get the microfibbets separated. You can use your thumb to push them back, and then as you can see from this angle, you want to tie thread wraps in between the fibbets. Now I did it on the far side. I liked how the 2 fibbets closest to me were already separated, so there's no need to tie in between those. When you're doing it, if you feel like, hey, I need to get that extra thread wrap in there, then go for it. The next step is to tie in the wing. Now male Tricoduns have fairly large wings that look like little sailboats on the water. So when you tie in your single white CDC puff, don't be afraid to make that wing really stick up. Another great reason for this is you'll be able to see your fly amongst all the naturals. Use a couple of thread wraps to lock down the puff and then secure it. Then sneak in there with your scissors and cut it off right at the hook eye. Now Shane used black superfine dubbing for the thorax on his version of the pattern. I actually like to use black awesome Possum because Possum does absorb water. Now I'm not saying that you want your dry fly to sink, but what happens during the Trico hatch once the spinners start to come down as well is that a lot of the better fish will actually eat the sunken flies ahead of the duns or the spinners that are flush on top of the water. So what's kind of cool about this pattern is if you fish it and you catch a few fish, continue to fish the fly, because at times if it sinks and you know there's fish in that area, just let it drift, because oftentimes you'll get a take subsurface. Once you tie in the thorax, perform a 3 or 4 turn whip finish, seat the knot, and then you can cut your tying thread free. And when I first read about this pattern, I just had to experiment, and I realized that going through the process of tying the thorax and tying the body the way Shane does it, it's not like that fly isn't awesome, but this is easier to tie, and you end up going through a lot of these during a Trico hatch, so if you can make more of them in less time, then it kind of makes sense to me. Here's a couple of fish that I've caught recently using this exact pattern up at 11-Mile Canyon. The fish were really on the Tricos, and I was able to just slam them on this fly. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also follow me on Instagram. Stay safe and tight lines.